Hey, somebody has run out on the field. Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that
out.
man.
Here comes the blue coat,
Oh,
Kevin.
they got him.
He's bare-chested.
He's banging his chest.
Oh man, that's like honestly one of the greatest ever.
So that's real, right?
Yeah.
What game was that?
Kansas City and oh god, who were they playing? For some reason I feel like I saw Jeff Fisher's face, so maybe Kansas City and the Titans or something like that.
Because I want to go back and watch that.
I'll actually send it to you. It's the sad part is they don't show it, of course, because they never show the guys on the field. So you're just looking at like the sidelines and just watching the guy. You just see people's heads like moving back and forth as they watch the guy run back and forth.
And they're giving them play-by-play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's bare-chested.
He's bare-chested.
He's banging his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the divisional weekend of football. Exciting weekend. We had a couple good games, and two blowouts. We'll start with the obvious blowout. Pump, your team, the G-Men.
G-Man.
Yeah.
Versus who I think was the best team in the league this year in Philly. 38-7. Total domination.
Waxed.
Complete utter domination.
It was a 31-point margin, the largest in the playoffs since the 1970.
Wait, what did you say?
It was the largest margin of victory over the Giants. It was the largest margin of victory since 1970, since the merger.
Yeah, it was bad.
The
Since the merger.
Yeah, so
It's on the history of the NFL.
and it happened to the Giants.
Of course it did. Daniel Jones is the quarterback. What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
Hey man, the pumpkin, the clock struck midnight.
Yes.
And they turned back into pumpkins.
What happened? It's your secondary team. What happened?
In all honesty, that was one of those situations where, to me, they played a much more talented team. The Eagles actually really are a really good team, right? I feel like we've all given them their props this season. They have a great defense. They do what they need to do on offense. They can score points. And Saquon, the people who have gotten the Giants to where they were or to where they are didn't show up. Danny Dimes didn't do anything. Saquon was pretty much non-existent. He ran for 61 yards. You can't get that from your best player.
Right.
So yeah, the Eagles pretty much showed you what the Giants, I guess, what Breeze has been saying all season. They were who he thought they were.
So
clock struck midnight.
As we talk more football on the show, I'm gonna talk about a trend in the playoffs, and that's you need a running game in the playoffs. I've been saying this for years now. You have to have a running game. The Eagles did what they wanted on the ground. They had 268 yards on the ground. They just couldn't stop nothing. They ran up the middle. They ran student body left, student body right. Jalen Hurts, he's coming off of a shoulder injury. He didn't have to do much. They just leaned on the running game. And I think if you're the Giants moving forward, you're going to have to find playmakers outside of Saquon and Danny Dimes. You have to find guys on the outside that could win one-on-one consistently. Because if you just are just a running team with your quarterback and your running back and don't have a guy that can stretch the field, it's an easy, especially with an athletic defense like the Eagles, it's an easy win. So they're gonna have to do something moving forward. They got bum rushed. The game was over at halftime. It was 28-0 at half. Yeah. They just got bumped. They got punched in their mouth. It's nothing else to say.
Yeah, you got to give up the sticks at that point.
Yeah, no, they got 21 skunked. Mm-hmm. Like, that's dubs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, real quick, I don't think we need to spend a bunch of time in it, but I'm looking at their season. They only beat 2 playoff teams. In 17 games, they beat 2 playoff teams. That tells me kind of what I need to know. You beat up a bunch of scrubs and still only went 9-7. So anytime you play somebody legit, you probably lost, except for the Jags early in the year. But we know the Jags came on later, and they beat the Ravens in week 6. So I'm not surprised.
Okay. Before we move on from them, if you're the GM for the Giants this offseason, what are you doing to build on this season? You had nobody expected a playoff team, so there's something there to build. You went and got a left tackle, and what's his name, Neal out of Alabama in the draft, Evan Neal. You got your defensive end, in the kid from Oregon, Kayvon. So you got 2 young trench guys to build on. What do you do moving forward? You still got Saquon and a young Danny Dimes, so I think there's talent there. I may have bragged about him a little too premature, but he's still a very talented guy. If you could get him some weapons, if you got the GM hat on, what are you doing?
Saquon showed his worth. The sad part is, in today's NFL, people kind of consider running backs a dime a dozen. He's obviously the best player on that team. I don't think that you can go forward if I'm the GM of the Giants and trust that Daniel Jones is going to be that guy for this team. I can't put my trust and say, hey, let that man go out there and do what he does, because obviously Saquon also has a history of being hurt. Like, he had a good season this year and he stayed healthy for the most part. But can I depend on that for my running back? And then I definitely can't depend on Daniel Jones.
So you trading away your best 2 pieces offensively?
I don't know what the value is for Daniel Jones. I know you can get value for Saquon Barkley. I think you can get some value. I don't think you can get any value for Daniel Jones. And if that's the case, I think the Giants are going to be where they are for a while. Because, I don't think Philly's going to fall off anytime soon. They're young. They got a young quarterback who they believe in. I think Dallas is still going to be very competitive. Dallas is always competitive.
We'll get there.
So I don't know. I think the Giants are going to stay middle of the pack right now unless they find a way to get a better, competent quarterback than Daniel Jones.
Okay.
I think you got to go all out on any of these quarterbacks who may be teetering. So, like, if Lamar doesn't strike a deal with the Ravens, you need to be the first one on the phone. Yeah. And honestly, just fly down there. I just spend the offseason in Baltimore just in case. You got nothing else to do. Or, if Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and say he demands a trade. Like, you need to be first in line for one of those type of quarterbacks, because I think it changes everything. I think Saquon Barkley is amazing.
He is.
He's an amazing talent, and he makes a lot of people's lives easier. So if you can get somebody, a quarterback who can either add on to that, right? A guy who also can create, like Lamar Jackson. He's just a weapon himself, like a true weapon. Like, Daniel Jones is not a weapon. Let's stop. Or a quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers who can get the most out of receivers, who elevates the receiver room. You got to go do something like that. Otherwise, you're going to mire in mediocrity. And I think this year was a bit of a fluke. I don't think they were a playoff team. I think they had a soft schedule. And they won enough games, so kudos to them to get there. But, man, you got to go in a different direction.
Okay, fair enough. So moving forward, the other game that was kind of one-sided, the Bills versus the Bengals. So in my notes,
Joey Burrow.
That's all I have in my notes. Joe Cool. Because
really,
before this game, it was said that the Bills they sold 50,000 tickets for the AFC Championship game in Atlanta. They gave the Bengals no chance of winning this, and
refund.
That's exactly what Joey Cool said. Go get them refunds, because he said, "Hold my beer." He showed up, and he's been doing this all season, and it may have flew under the radar. I got him as my number 2 quarterback in the league. Not because I'm infatuated with the shiny new toy, Breeze, but
I wasn't even gonna bring that up.
I'm saying you brought that up last night, but
we're here now.
The guy's just mature beyond his years. He just knows how to run an offense, and he went into that stadium in Buffalo in the snow. He didn't turn the ball over, and he led that offense. And at no point in that game did I see or say the the Bills are going to come back and win this. Joe, he managed that game brilliantly, and Mixon, he mixed it up with 105 and a touchdown. And if you have a running game in the playoffs, as well as a quarterback like Joe Burrow with weapons, and their defense really has been playing better than last year. Toast, even though Pump, you don't like Toast, he had a good game. Eli Apple,
Peon.
That defense,
He's a plebe.
Yeah, that defense took away Stephon Diggs and that running game and forced Josh Allen to do what they wanted him to do and try to win the game with his legs and make errant throws. So they might be the team to beat moving forward. What did you think of this game yesterday?
Me and Breeze had a good conversation, and I definitely wanted some of that conversation to trickle into the pod today. We had a conversation about, Josh Allen, and I still believe that Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing more that I think it's strictly based off of his talent. I think there's other quarterbacks that play the position better than he does. And he faced one of them. And if you look at the history of Buffalo in the playoffs, he keeps losing to people who play the position better than he does. Even in those shootouts, right? The great game we watched last year, him and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback.
All right.
Joe Burrow is a better quarterback. They both have weapons, and he is he's more talented than Joe Burrow physically, right? He can run, he can pass, he can do everything physically better. But Joe Burrow is going to go out there and win a game playing quarterback. And I feel like in that game, Breeze kind of mentioned to me about, Stephon Diggs. And it's like, well, kind of where was he? Now, wide receivers are dependent on your quarterback getting you the ball.
Right.
Josh Allen, I feel on every single play, he trusts himself more than he trusts what's around him, right? We know he doesn't have much of a running game. He kind of is the running game. We thought James Cook might get off. Singletary can have certain games. You got Stephon Diggs. You got Knox. You got Evans. If you plug any quarterback, give Joe Burrow that same team with that offensive line, that game's a blowout. Because Joe Burrow is going to do what he needs to do with that talent because he's a better quarterback.
Right.
And that's what I saw. I mean, on top of that, the Bengals defense has these moments. We've seen them do this like 2 years in a row now, where all of a sudden they flip a switch. And what's the white dude, number 91?
Hendrickson?
All of a sudden he turns into Joey Bosa, Reggie White, Michael Strahan. Yeah, he turns into whatever that guy. He just wreaks havoc. I think that D coordinator also brought a great game plan into the game. They were throwing these weird blitz packages in there on Josh Allen, and it made him have to play quarterback. And when you have to make Josh Allen play quarterback, the Bills lose.
So is that the way to beat Josh Allen, make him play quarterback?
It seems like it.
I mean, it's hard to argue against that, right? I mean, we've seen it now. The last year was a little bit different, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had to shoot out. They ended up losing to the Chiefs. But I also question Josh's ability to rise to a certain level, right? When you get to a playoffs, man, you got to and Pump, you asked me last night, you were like, what's the difference between regular season and playoffs? You still got 1 week to prepare. And I could be reaching on this. I don't know. I never played in the league. But it seems like the cream really rises in the playoffs. Week 7, week 8, you might be in the drag of the season, or, you're a little nicked up and it matters. When it comes to the playoffs, like none of that matters.
Right.
Everybody's dialed in. Everybody's at their best. And if your best can't beat the other guy's best, then that's a problem. Let's say there's something there. I mean, one touchdown at home in the divisional round, that's unacceptable, right? So a lot of people have crowned this kid, I think, too early.
I was going there.
I am not. I mean, I think Josh Allen's a phenomenal talent.
Top 5.
And his numbers are fantastic. I don't know if he's top 5 for me.
Okay.
Because, again, in these moments, when the game is on you, everybody looks at you and says, hey, can you save us? It's been no, right? That team is built around him being Mr. Everything. And when it comes down to it, he just hasn't been able to do enough. So either they need to change the way they're doing things, or he needs to learn how to trust the guys around him, elevate the people around you. That doesn't happen. He led the team in rushes. That's nuts. That's nuts. I don't know. They got to figure something out, man. But if Pump is right, and all you have to do is force him to sit in the pocket and make throws, and you get results like this, he can't be near my top 5. I'm sorry. The numbers are going to say otherwise, right? He's got big numbers. Every year he puts up huge numbers. But if that's the recipe for beating you in the postseason, no, you can't be in my top 5.
Right. You got the biggest arm in the league. You got to be able to use that when the game's on the line. We know Joe Burrow can run. Did we see him run yesterday? No, he didn't need to.
He ran for 31 yards.
And it was probably because he needed to run.
And 21 came on one run.
Right. So it's like they went and got Stephon Diggs from Minnesota. They went and got other guys to put around you. Knox, he's a great tight end, solid. James Cook, they're not utilizing him the way that they should. He's got enough weapons around him to where he doesn't need to feel or don't need to try to win every play with his legs or try to scramble around and be unorthodox. Just drop back, make your read. Either it's there or it's not. But I think he's just going to have to figure it out between the ears because he's got all, like Pump said, he's got all the tools. It's on him at this point.
He's got tons of talent. And sadly, obviously the record doesn't speak for it, but I've compared him, again, to Jay Cutler. He has the tools to do everything, right? He can run. He can pass. He has one of the biggest arms in the game, but he knows that he has one of the biggest arms in the game. He knows that he thinks he can make every single throw. He can make every single run. And in those times, like I was telling Breeze yesterday, where we watched that game against Minnesota, and here he is dragging that team down the field by himself, right? He breaks off a long run, breaks off another long run, makes a good pass. But then he also blew the game by throwing to Patrick Peterson. Like, bro, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Right? So he'll get you there, but then he'll also lose you the game.
Maybe the moment's too big.
Moment's too big.
I mean, piss down his leg.
So before we move on from them, being that he plays the way he does, and you got a guy like Stephon Diggs, who is now in his 30s as a wide receiver, do you stay with a quarterback like that if you're Stephon, or do you look to move on? Because after the game, he didn't stay for the whole locker room meeting. He kind of stormed out. And I think it was you that said that's not a good look for a guy with a C on his chest. So either you – was it you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it's not a good look for a guy that's a captain. But, in the NFL, once you get up into the 30s, especially as a wide receiver, you start to become labeled as washed. Do you think Stephon Diggs looks elsewhere to maybe play with a quarterback that's going to utilize his skill set more and not play backyard football and I got to run scramble drills on every route?
Does he have a choice?
You could demand a trade. I mean,
you can ask for a trade.
I feel like guys don't do that too often. I think that's one of the. I think that's a kind of a rarity in this day and age. It usually doesn't look good from a PR standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. I don't know if he's got much of a choice, but something's got to change. And if he's unhappy with the situation, you got to be able to have a sit down with ownership, with your quarterback, with your offensive coordinator, and say, "Look, guys, whatever we're doing in the regular season, it's great.
Yeah,
right? It's great in the regular season." I think I'm in this conversation. I kind of compared playing the Bills to playing the Milwaukee Bucks in the regular season. It's just so different than everything else you see week to week. So it's hard to prepare for it. Especially, again, during the drag of the season. It's a long, dragging season. And, when you come up against them, it's like, oh, this is different.
Right.
Now, in the playoffs, none of that matters.
Nothing gets you off guard.
No.
Yeah.
You're completely ready for everything, and everybody's locked in 100%. So you got to have a conversation and say, look, whatever we're doing in the regular season, that's fine. We got to find a way to do something different in the postseason, right? And I think this kind of goes back to one of your knocks on Lamar Jackson, Pump, about you don't know if that's championship winning football because the game so much depends on him in creating everything. Right. And maybe this is the same thing. Maybe Josh Allen's in the same boat where, hey, man, you just can't win like that. And they got to find a way to actually play championship-winning football in the postseason.
Okay.
I co-sign that.
Well, speaking of championship-winning football, we have a quarterback in Jacksonville that knows a thing or two about championship-type play at the quarterback position. And I think even though it didn't turn out the way that he wanted, the clock struck midnight for the comeback kids. But Trevor Lawrence, man, we got to give him a round of applause for the season he's had and the way, he went about his business in the playoff.
I'm a fan of Trevor.
Yeah.
He should be.
I think he can surpass Josh Allen if he continues on this trajectory.
And I think he's got really good help coming next season in Calvin Ridley. Travis Etienne and going into his second full season because he missed a lot of time in his first season. So now you got Travis going into Trevor Etienne, not Travis.
Trevor's at the Gators.
Okay. Trevor, whatever. The Etienne boy.
Trav.
Etienne. Yeah, I think that offense is going to be dangerous next year. You throw in a Calvin Ridley, and you give Sunshine another year going into now his third year, which again, talents like that continue to get better. And I don't think he's hit a ceiling yet.
I can officially give you or send you my article now because they're done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so,
the article was about the Jags.
Well, no, it was about Justin and Trevor.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So I mean, now that their season is done, because I want to see how far he was going to be able to take it.
Yeah.
Because again, to me, I'm looking at both of these quarterbacks, and we'll just focus on Trevor. What happens when you have competent coaching, right?
Yeah.
Doug Peterson made a difference on that team. They've had talent, right? We know that Trevor's a talented guy, but from the last two seasons, a lot of people might have been like, I guess he might be another bust. Might be another Clemson bust.
This was his second season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought this was his third.
No, this is
Justin's second season, ain't it?
Yeah.
Were they in the same draft? I didn't think they were in the same.
No, they were in the same. They've been following each other throughout their whole career.
Step for step.
So this is his second season.
Yeah.
I thought so.
I double check.
Yeah, I can look it up.
All right, look it up. Either way, it shows what happens when you have a competent coaching staff around you, right? Because we know that Trevor is extremely talented, right? He's shown that. And now all of a sudden, take out Urban Meyer, get a real coach in there. Again, a coach that has been here, won a Super Bowl, has played quarterback before. Now all of a sudden the Jaguars are a playoff contending team, right? And that game, that was a one-possession game.
Yeah, they had a fumble inside the red zone, turned the game.
So it didn't seem fluky. And even with them losing, it's like, oh man, well you lost to the Chiefs. That's a respectable loss to me, right? They've 5 straight AFC Championship games they've been to now.
Yeah.
So I can't knock them. And you know that now, like Bree said, they're getting more help, more weapons for Trevor Lawrence to throw to, a guy who knows how to play quarterback again, right? He's been doing this with Christian Kirk.
Yeah, Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. So again, you're not throwing to Stephon Diggs.
Was it 2?
This is his second season.
So you're not throwing to these guys. You're not throwing to anybody. I remember they got Christian Kirk from Washington?
Arizona.
And everyone's like, cool, you signed Christian Kirk. Who cares?
$80 million.
Zay Jones. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a playoff team now. But Trevor Lawrence knows how to play quarterback, and it showed.
And speaking of quarterbacks, Pat Mahomes went down in that game, and it didn't stop that train. Travis Kelce had a record in the playoffs, 14 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Without Pat Mahomes for the better part of the first half, Chad Henne went in there and led a 75-yard drive.
Pat just needs a good jazz bath. That's all he needs.
He all right.
Yeah.
So
rub some dirt on the kid.
So I mentioned it last week. You can't let the Chiefs get ahead and expect to come back. And regardless of who you plug into an Andy Reid offense, the offense is still going to go. Pacheco had 95 yards. Again, running in the playoffs. You need that running game. So our guy, MVS, scored a touchdown.
They would.
you can't, especially with a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback, you can't get down against the Chiefs and expect to come back and win in the playoffs. And those two turnovers at the end for the Jags? Those were real pivotal in Kansas City, man. The train just keeps rolling, and we gotta keep an eye on Mahomes because it's a different animal coming to town.
To me, this is one of Pat's more impressive performances.
Really,
in my opinion, he was almost immobile. Like, he could barely get a handoff on a stretch run play. So the man was hobbling, like literally almost playing on one leg, right? It wasn't Byron Leftwich getting carried up the field, but he could barely move. And I asked Pump this question. I said, what would Josh Allen do if that happened to him? Well, he couldn't run. But at the same time, what would Lamar Jackson do? Right? A lot of guys we think are the elite quarterbacks or top fives or in your top sevens or whatever, if that happens to them, they're not delivering. They're not still carving defenses up. The man couldn't move. And yet and still, Chad Henne came in and had a touchdown drive. But Pat played the whole second half on one leg. And were they still, they put up 40? No, they didn't. But they were still efficient. They were able to do enough to get a win against a very young and hungry Jags team. To me, that's impressive because a lot of quarterbacks, and it was his right leg, if I remember correctly, which is his plant leg as a right-handed quarterback. I don't think that's getting enough attention. That's impressive, man.
Yeah.
Just to even just be out there. The average person is like, yo, I'm done. Like, hey, what's the ice bath? You know what I'm saying? But
right.
That's impressive, man. And it just goes to show, to me, Pat is, and I've been on this train for a while. Pat's the best quarterback in the league.
Hands down.
And Tom is faded out. I feel like watching Kobe in like 08, 09, and you can just see Braun is like just running them down. You could see it coming. It wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready to say it in 09. Kobe wins back-to-back chips 09 and 10, and I wasn't ready to say it. But then 11 comes around, and then 12 comes around. It's like, yeah, this is now Braun's league. And I think we're watching the same thing with Pat, where it's like, yeah, Tom is he's kind of fading, seemingly. And for Pat to do that, man, and to still be effective in any sense at all on one leg, I think it's really impressive. And with a week to, rest it, I think he'll be just fine. And I think he's going to still be Pat.
Agreed. Because to kind of end that point, a lot of quarterbacks, if you take away one asset of their game, they can't do nothing else. Pat, he likes to run around in the pocket as well. He's not just a drop back guy.
No.
And they took that away from him. And he's like, all right, I'm going to stay in the pocket. I could do both. A lot of people can't do both. So that is to be commended. And hopefully he gets healthy because Joe Burrow, man, that's a matchup I would pay to watch.
Yeah. I hope we get a really good game. Oh, and real quick, like you said, shout out to the other guys that stepped up. I think Boo Boo Smith-Schuster had a couple catches.
Juju.
MVS had a touchdown.
Our guy, shout out to Lakewood.
So those other guys did just enough too, because I've said I don't think you can't do it with just a tight end.
Right.
So those other guys stepped up and made plays too.
And you don't like Pacheco, do you? He gets up and celebrate after a 5-yard run.
It's so annoying. Act like you've done something in your life. I'm sorry.
And Kadarius Toney, man, that he could be a factor. He could be a real factor. We're not shouting out Gators on here.
Oh man, he goes a first round draft pick, bro. And they beat their chest over that dude. Oh, he's a first round. No, he's not. He was not a first rounder. Stop it.
On any other team, I wouldn't believe in him. But in Andy Reid's offense, they're gonna find ways to make him a factor.
The fourth option? What are we talking about?
All right, I mean,
he's a first rounder, and he's a fourth option on his second team.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
he ain't getting nothing from me.
I'm gonna throw it back.
Right.
All right. Last but not least, what can go wrong will go wrong.
Ah. Oh my God. What? What did I tell y'all? Didn't I say just be patient? That's all I asked. That's all I asked. All I asked was for y'all to be patient. It was coming. It was coming. It didn't matter. High power
have a prolific offense. Michael Irvin, the playmaker. Keep it spinning or breaking records. We averaging more than 35 points per game. Well, what did you do tonight?
I'm sorry.
Hey,
No,
man,
that's fantastic.
That's great. We all knew Stephen A. was coming.
Oh yeah.
And
He never lets me down on that.
to his point, what did they do last night? They lost 12-19 in San Fran against Mr. Irrelevant, a rookie quarterback.
Purdy's 30.
Sure.
No, he's not. Stop it.
No, Purdy is 30.
Hey, man. He didn't play elite football either. But Dak, man, let me just start the conversation off with this question. Should the Dallas Cowboys move on from Dak?
No.
No.
Okay. What should be done in Dallas? Because as Stephen A. alluded to, just be patient. The Cowboys will step on their toes yet again. Last year, it was the last drive. They couldn't get set to spike the ball, and lost. And we kind of saw this coming, even though they beat the Bucs, handled it really bad last week. You saw the kicking game setting the stage up.
No money Maher.
Yeah, setting the stage up for what would happen to the Cowboys. And Dak came out the gates throwing picks, just double clutching, not seeing the game. You know, what can be done to this team?
In all honesty, I think the first time that this hire happened, I called 12 and we talked about it. Mike McCarthy's not a good head coach.
You've been saying that for a while.
You're not going to win games because of Mike McCarthy. He's just not, right? He won one Super Bowl because you had arguably at the time the greatest quarterback in the league. You had Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I could have won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback, right? In his prime. I'm not going to put it all on Mike McCarthy, but at the same time, I feel like when you have a quarterback, and I think that Dak is a really good quarterback, and we talked about that last night, right? I think a lot of people don't appreciate what Dak is. And when you have somebody that has that kind of talent, you don't let it go because the quarterback, the commodity for a quarterback is in high demand. So if you got a good one, you hold on to it, right? But at the same time, if you need competent people around them to make them better. What I saw from Dak and what I've seen from Dak is these levels of inconsistency where I need somebody there to say, Dak, what are you doing? Whether that be a Sean Payton or what you see with Doug Peterson doing with Trevor Lawrence. If you get that kind of, I think if you get that kind of coaching in Dallas, because they just came off of but Jason Garrett was there forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a great head coach either.
And then you got a 30-year-old offensive coordinator. Sure. He's probably not going to listen to.
Who honestly, and we talked about last night, he didn't call a bad game.
He set up the game well for Dak to win it.
So it was there. Dak was making mistakes. So if it takes for somebody to be able to get Dak to the next level, then I think that's what you need. Because Dak has all the weaponry around him.
At this stage of his career, why does it take someone else to motivate him to get to that level? We all know Dak has all the tools. Yeah. We saw that against the Bucs. That's probably his best game ever that I've seen. So we know he could do it. Like, why does it take a coach to? It doesn't take a coach to get Joe Burrow up. It doesn't Brady, all these other guys. Why does it take a certain hire to get him motivated or to get him over the hump? A coach isn't gonna tell you to not throw a comeback route late. Mm-hmm. That's on you.
I mean, it honestly might take that coach to say, okay, we need to work on these things. Because Dak has all the tools to be a top 10 in the league. I mean, are we putting Dak in the top 10? We can probably come up with maybe 10 people above Dak. Maybe
he might be 10.
He's probably right.
If he's top 10, then he's 10, right?
Yeah, 9 or 10.
So for me, I feel like there's somebody there to get you to that next level. I do. I mean, I don't think that Tom Brady is great because he has all the physical tools. He works hard, but he also had somebody there with him.
But my thing is, you reach these guys at an early age. You mentioned Justin Fields all the time. You could reach a younger mind early and kind of get those habits out. Dak has been there. He's been around the ballpark now. I don't think you could get there now and try to change some of the habits that he has. He got all the talent in the world, but oftentimes you have to get these guys while they're young. You got the Trevor Lawrences. I don't know if Josh Allen, Ken Dorsey is too late in his career to kind of turn around certain things that he does in this game, but I think Dak is just a lost cause. He'll be fun to watch in Dallas, and they'll win regular season games, but when the chips is on the table, he folds.
I think we just have to be okay with calling Dak what he is, right? And I think calling him good is fine. I think that's okay. Right. Sometimes we have to be okay with just calling good, and not everybody good will be great. And there's nothing wrong with that. Dak to me is he's one of those quarterbacks where week to week you could get different performances. And I think this is just another example of that. You talked about the inconsistency. Last week, he was outside of his mind. And what did I say? I said next week, he's going to be back to looking like Dak. And sure enough, he looked more human. He looked superhuman last week. And so when you have a quarterback like that, the way to win big is you have to be able to play complementary football. Where was the rushing game yesterday?
It's that trend again.
All right, so Tony, and I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. If you can run the football and you can stop the other team's run game, you probably can win a lot of football games. And after Tony Pollard went down, as a team, they rushed for 76 yards. Zeke went for 26 yards on 10 carries.
In the famous words of Breeze, get him out.
like that's not okay. That's not championship football for a team built like that. A team that's built to score points. Now their defense is decent, but they're not built to, hey, we're gonna win alley fights. We're gonna win bar fights. We want it to be a knockdown, drag out, slugfest, defensive struggle. That's not how Dallas is built. Dallas is built to score points. And when they can't score points, they're not going to win games. And you need to, if you want to consistently score points, you need complementary football. When Dallas was at their best was when Zeke was a top 5 back in the league. And there was nothing you can do. Right? When he was that hot, like, because at that point, Dak doesn't have to be Mr. Everything. Right? Now, you don't run into the Josh Allen situations where quarterback is Mr. Everything week in, week out, and eventually they're going to falter, most of them, when they don't have anything else helping them. So to me, go get your offensive line together. I don't think Zeke's ability just sapped. I don't think he got hit by the Monstars and they took his powers. But I think that offensive line ain't what it used to be. We used to rave about that O-line.
That's O-line.
I did.
Yeah.
They had the best O-line in the league for like 3-4 years or so, and it's kind of aged out a little bit. They didn't develop and draft behind it because they think, oh, we're good.
Right.
And so now they don't have that monster O-line, and so now everybody's got to do more. So now Zeke's deficiencies as he ages, which running back to do quicker than everybody else, okay, now that really falls off a cliff. And so now it's really on Dak, and I don't think Dak is that guy, which is okay.
Right.
You don't have to be Mr. Everything if the pieces around you are right. So to me, shore up the O-line, find you a running game, and then let Dak be the complementary piece to a running game. And at that point, well, then you can go really far.
And also, I think they kind of missed Amari Cooper yesterday because it was CD or nothing in the passing game. Gallup, how many catches did he have? 1, maybe?
I forgot.
T.Y.
I didn't even know he played.
Right. So
there was that one where I think Dak overthrew him. Like he had a nice little go route and he was open on a long ball and Dak overthrew him, man.
CD played a hell of a game yesterday. He had 1 catch. Well, it was just a hands catch on a deep fade route. But there was no other weapons on the outside. And I think they kind of missed that Amari Cooper effect of just routing up a guy on a slant and getting that easy first down. I don't know, man. They gotta do something in Dallas. But go ahead.
Oh no, I'm kind of looking at what we see in the playoffs right now. We're talking about Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow just plays quarterback better, right? We saw Patrick Mahomes on one leg. He can do what he does because he just plays quarterback better than everybody, right? And what we saw last night with San Fran and Dallas is Dallas clearly had the better quarterback. But now, again, to me, what my point is about coaching. You saw Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah.
He coached the hell out of that game.
He didn't ask Purdy to do much at all.
No, so and there was one series where we were kind of talking about it where they took a timeout, on a second down, and it's like, well, what are you doing?
Be aggressive,
right? But you even said it's like, well, we want to make sure we do the right thing right now. I don't want my no experienced quarterback in the playoffs to go ahead and do something that he really shouldn't be doing.
Right.
So if I'm going to blow a timeout right now on second down, then that's okay. Come over here. Let's figure out what it is. And it was like a random run. It wasn't even to Mike.
They got 3 yards. It was a second
McCaffrey.
and 5, and they got 3 yards. They gave it to Eli Mitchell.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, again, he said, you know what? That's exactly what we want to do. Like, Brock, I don't want you to do too much. We're just going to hand the ball off, and then we'll figure it out from there.
And we got Robbie Gould that hasn't missed a field goal in the playoffs.
Right,
That's insurance.
So, Brock, just do what I tell you to do and go win this game for us. But do what I tell you to do, right? Yeah. So, again, you had a coach that did that. Maybe Kyle Shanahan could do that with Dak. I don't know. So, again, you're
young quarterbacks, man.
He's young.
Cooper Rush probably would have played a better game than Dak.
Maybe
yesterday.
But I don't think Mike McCarthy is going to give Dak Prescott any pointers. Mike McCarthy's not a good coach. So, yeah.
All right, well, Cowboys are out. So
they are.
Anybody talk to Herm?
Yeah, I texted him last night. I asked, like, cuz, you good? And he just sent me the video back of like DMX crying. That's the last time I heard from him. I haven't heard from him since then.
Yeah, man. Cowboy fans.
You'll be all right, cuz.
There was a guy that drove over his TV.
Nah, he's fine. Niggas the everyday B.
Yeah,
he be all right.
Yeah, he be all right. You tough, right?
Tough, right?
Right, so Brock Purdy just keeps winning, and his prize for the next round is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh.
Yeah, I need predictions, fellas. How's the game gonna go? Who's gonna win it?
I got Niners. I think I said last week. Niners are my Super Bowl team.
You're riding the Brock train.
I'm riding the 49er train. At this point, I feel like the 49ers have the best all-around team. I like the Eagles have a really good defense, have a lot of weapons. I feel like that matchup, that should be a really fun game. If that game is like a blowout, I'll be very disappointed.
Yeah.
Because the Eagles and the Niners are both set up almost in similar fashions. Again, they have tons of weapons on both sides of the ball. Both teams have really good defenses. And if you let the Niners just pin their ears back and go after Jalen Hurts and make him play quarterback, I'm curious to see how that works.
Okay.
The only outcome that would surprise me would be a Niners blowout, or the Niners blow them out. I can see the Eagles. We've seen it. They just get hot, and everything they're doing just works, and they just roll. And whatever the moment's too big for Brock, and he's on the roll. NFC Championship is too much. I can see that happening. What I think is actually going to happen, though, and I'm going to stick to what I've been saying before. I don't think this Eagles team has really been tested, and playoffs are different, right? They got a chance to. They played the Giants, who I thought were stinky, and they blew them out. But I think the Niners can make this game ugly. That's the other thing the Niners want to do with that defense. Pump, you said it yesterday. You said they want to lean on that defense. I think if they can make this game ugly, because they played ugly games. They want to play an ugly game. I don't think Philly wants to play an ugly game. I don't think Philly wants it to be a bar fight. I don't think they want to get in that phone booth and squabble. So I think the Niners, if they can make this an ugly game, a low-scoring 17-14, 19-12 like they did to Dallas.
That's up the 49ers alley right there.
If that's how they can make that game, then give me the Niners, because I think they're built to win that way, and I don't think Philly can. I think Philly can only win like shootouts or where it's fun and everybody's playing loose. I think they get challenged, they get punched in the mouth. I'm interested to see how they respond. Give me the Niners by like a field goal.
I'm going with Philly because I actually do think they can win a squabble. Okay. I mean, it's a tough city just to begin with. It's Philly. The game is in Philly. Okay. And I think that defense, a lot of people are overlooking that defense. Fletcher Cox up the middle, he's just been there for years, for like 30 years, and just been good all 30. Josh Sweat is playing out of his mind. Hassan Reddick is essentially outside linebacker / safety / DN that could get around the left tackle or right tackle and get sacks. He's like a Micah Parsons. So that it's going to be a battle in the trenches. And that's where it starts. And if they get into a squabble and Pump, like you said, if they put pressure on Jalen Hurts and force him to play quarterback. I think he will. And I think he will use his legs more. And that's not something Brock Purdy could do. I think Jalen Hurts, he could stretch the field as well as use his leg. And we saw in the 49ers game, CD was getting behind people. You saw Gallup got behind people. Those receivers in Philly are a lot better. I like A.J. Brown over CD. I like Devontae Smith. He came on this year.
Yeah, he did.
Goddard is back.
Yeah.
And the running game balances things out. So I think they will get into a squabble. But I do think Jalen Hurts makes a difference, especially with his legs. And I got Philly winning by 3.
Interesting.
Okay.
So it's going to be a good one.
So for you at that point, that's where I put what Kyle Shanahan does over what Nick Sirianni.
Oh, yeah. Shanahan got the coaching matchup.
So, again, if I'm sitting there and I'm watching that and I can depend on that defense and what DeMeco Ryans is doing with that San Fran defense, that boy is nice on that defense. Both of them are great defenses. So if it's going to come to who's going to manage that game, that chess match, give me Kyle. And that's why I take the Eagles. I mean, the Niners. And I'm with Breeze, like probably about a field goal or two.
We're all thinking field goal. Yeah, it's going to be a good game.
Hopefully it's just a good game.
Yeah, shout out to DeMeco. I think he's gone after this year. He's going to get a job somewhere. He's got that defense hungry.
I don't know. He's black.
Racist.
And he's young.
I don't know.
Did we pick the AFC?
No, not yet.
I'm getting into it, man.
I'm sorry.
Quick draw.
My bad.
Quick draw McGraw.
Bang, bang.
All right, so it's the battle of the quarterbacks. This one, man. I think these are the top 2 guys in the NFL. If you want to see some good quarterback play, this is the game you want to tune into, man. The Bengals and the Chiefs. Both have high-powered offense. Defense are hit and miss. I think the Bengals have the upper hand on the defense, but you can't really write off the Chiefs' defense as well. They show up at times. I'm thinking a shootout. What are you guys thinking?
Oh, man.
This is the shootout that they wanted last year again.
Yeah,
the Bills.
The funny part is I know the Bengals can get into a shootout, but then there's times where the Bengals just put up 20 points.
Yeah.
And now you have let's see what Pat looks like. Was it a high ankle sprain?
I don't know. I didn't see the official report.
So, I mean, because high ankle sprains are like long injuries.
Yeah, but would he have been able to return in that game with a high ankle sprain?
Probably not.
I think he would have came back regardless. I feel like he would have came back regardless. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the prognosis was, or the prognosis.
That's right.
Diagnosis.
That's right.
Cool. In that case,
Yeah, high ankle sprain.
that's a tough injury. But again, he knows how to play quarterback. He knows how to get through this, and that goes back again when I'm talking about coaching. I trust Andy Reid. Andy Reid will now dial up a game plan to say, okay, Pat can't do this. He can't do this. Let me figure out a way to make him more effective, and then Pat's going to go off of that. But I still take the Bengals.
All of that to take the Bengals.
Yeah. In a really fun game.
It'll be fun.
24-21, Bengals.
I can't pick against the Chiefs. I just can't. We've seen them lose, right? They're not infallible. They're not invincible. But I don't know if I've ever picked against the Chiefs in the postseason in the last 5 years, except maybe when they played the Bucs, just because I had to. And for the reasons you just said, Pat can beat you in so many ways. That offense is consistent. That's my key for this pick. It's the consistency of the Chiefs offense. I trust that over the consistency of the Bengals offense, right? We were having a conversation last night about receivers, and Jamar Chase has all the talent in the world. He has number 1 receiver in the league talent, but you don't always get number 1 receiver in the league production. And if I'm banking on in an AFC championship who I trust to be consistent, MVS can catch 3 passes for 40 yards, and that'll be enough for them to win. Travis Kelce's going to get his. I don't care what you do. Right, Kadarius Toney. Yeah, he's a little bummy, but he'll get his 2 catches for 45. You know what I mean? But that's consistent though. You know, they don't need an out of the world performance from these guys like an MVS, a Kadarius Toney, a Pachenko. They don't need that to win. Yeah. So they just need those guys to be their average selves. Most of them are average, and they just need you to be average, and they can win that way. So give me that over, I think, a Bengals team who is at their best when somebody's playing outside of themselves. And I don't think the Chiefs need that. I think the Chiefs, they just play really good football and just, hey, everybody just do your job. And it's working for them. You don't fluke your way to 5 straight AFC championships, man.
Not at all.
You don't. So give me that at home, Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes, even a hobbled one. Yeah, I got to take that.
I dig it.
I'm going with the balanced offense. Joe Mixon had 105 last game. He's the better back if we're going position by position. The Bengals have 2 of the better receivers, and T. Higgins, who hasn't showed up yet. That could be a matchup you want to watch. You know how I feel about Jamar Chase. So they got the 2 best receivers, the best running back. We know we all love Joe Burrow, and it's something about when he gets on the stage when everybody's watching. We haven't seen him have a bad game when everybody's watching, and they beat him last year at home. So I'm going to go with the better receiver and the more balanced team. And I'm going to go Bengals by 10.
Okay.
Okay. So what, is that a rematch of the 1988 Super Bowl? Bengals 49ers?
Well, I'm going Bengals Philly.
Oh, you're going Philly. I got Bengals Niners in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl.
Okay.
All right, we got some mailbag from our beloved Cha.
You want to get straight into it, or do you want to take a break first?
Let me take a break, go blow my nose,
Sick.
pay some bills, drink some Red Lady. We'll be right back.
Cool.